So I'm listening to a TED Talk. I'm sorry, it's loud. I'm standing outside and like I'm getting tears in my eyes, and the synchronicity is crazy that this is the video that I chose to listen to this morning. This is insane, but it just brought something up for me, and there's another fear of mine. That is, I am afraid to ask for help because I was always called a beggar. Anytime I needed something, be it big or small, just anything, especially after like I had my first kid, after I became an adult and I needed something, it was always Addie the beggar, Addie's begging, or it made me never want to ask for help. So I stopped asking for help. I stopped asking for what I needed. I stopped asking for things because it was considered begging, and I didn't want to be known as a beggar. That just came up for me right now, and while I was in a true state of vulnerability, I wanted to document it. So I'm outside. I just got back in from taking my walk. I've got the little people outside with me, so they're kind of whining, so I'm gonna probably come back and film a little part of this later. So I'm back. Today is day 4 of my 84 journey on The Artist's Way, a 12-week program to help you basically reignite your creativity and release blocks. So this morning was interesting because last night I went to bed really late. I was like really frustrated just about how late I was getting to bed, how late everything got done, and I knew, of course, there was gonna come the day when everything wasn't completely perfect, or the last 3 nights have been pretty good. I've been in bed by 10 and everything's basically been pretty cool, but I mean, I figured that there would be a moment where when things aren't so cool, and that was really what I wanted to know, like how I would respond, just how I would respond, or how everything would really kind of like work out when things weren't going so good. So I had a moment this morning where I usually every morning I put on something positive to listen to. I've been doing this, so I hadn't done it really all summer because I wasn't walking, because I wasn't taking my daughter to school. But during the mornings when I walk to school, I usually listen to like a podcast, a TED Talk, something on SoundCloud, something that is like motivational and inspirational, and that basically just goes with something like uplifting, or something that I want to hear. Basically something that's gonna like motivate me and inspire me or encourage me throughout my day. I'm gonna like prop this up. So this morning, I can't even remember what it was that I listened to. I would have to go back and check, but I happened to just landed on a lady who was giving a TED Talk, and the title was something like, "What Happens When Women Stop Believing the Lies?" And as I was listening to it, at the very end, she was talking about all the really critical things that people have said to us. And so she gives this example of how she was trying on clothes one day in a dressing room at a store called Susie's Deals. And I laugh because I can connect with that so much, because I used to shop at Susie's Deals. Susie's Deals was the $5 store, and everything in there was $5 freaking dollars. Like, you can't lose. But she said that, inside of Susie's Deals, if anybody remembers what a Susie's Deals is, the dressing rooms didn't have doors or anything on them. They had like a curtain on a string that you just slide across, and that's basically how your rooms were blocked off. Well, she says in the dressing room next to her, it was a young girl and her mom, and she could hear the mom saying to the young girl, like, hurry up, you're so slow, like, you never do anything right, or, I shouldn't have brought you anyways, or, really just saying all these negative things. And she says that the whole time that she was listening to this from the dressing room, that it was just breaking her heart, because she can remember being that girl. And it sort of like hit a really deep spot for me. And not that my mom or my dad was really like that critical. It wasn't like they said things like that, like you never do anything right or whatnot. But there were still other words that was said. And one of the biggest things that she said was, the mom said, like, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? I think that's a really negative way of saying something to a child, because nothing's wrong with our children. And it made me think, because I've said that to my children before, you know, my parents said, what's wrong with you, to me. And I'm not talking in the sense of like what's wrong because something's actually wrong. That would literally be like the only context that you would say what is wrong with you, because other than that, to imply that something is wrong with me because I'm not moving as fast as you want me to, or to imply that something is wrong with me because I didn't choose to do this and you wanted me to, you know. So it really sort of hit home, and it just made me feel like, wow. And so what it brought up for me was a fear that I was able to identify in myself today, and that is basically a fear of asking for help. And I think that a lot of us may struggle with asking for help, but I think this morning, in a very like wonderful state of clarity, I think I realized that I am afraid to ask for help. Because a lot of times as a child and growing up, asking for help required a lecture. Asking for help required getting yelled at or getting in trouble, or, you know, me being called a beggar. Or, you know, when I was like in my 20s and I needed help, I had a kid, you know, I was doing the damn thing by myself, but there were some things that I needed help with, and it just seemed like, you know, if I would call my parents like, hey, you know, Dad, can you shoot me $10 for gas or whatever, I feel like those things were never just like, oh, sure, honey, here you go, because they had it, or when they did have it. I can't always say my parents had it because I'm not really sure what went on in their financial circumstances, but when it seemed like it was available, it wasn't ever a nice gift. It wasn't ever something, here you go. Like, it was never that. It always had to be tied to making me feel some sort of shame for asking for the help, no matter how simple that help was that I needed. And I find that now, as an adult, now in my 30s, you know, when I need to network and when I need to ask for help and when I need to be able to vocalize the things that I need or want, it's really hard to do. And so that was big for me today. I think that was really big. I know that, you know, the book shares that you'll see a lot of synchronicities, a lot of things will start happening that are like, you see why they happen, and that already happens a lot in my life. So I just find it interesting that on week 1, we're talking about recovering a sense of safety. We're identifying our fears. We're identifying those negative things that our censor says to us, those really deep-rooted things. And so today, during the morning pages, I wrote something, and I'm going to read it to you guys. Okay, and so one other thing really quick that I was able to kind of see or realize, like, I feel like I was never really complimented as a child, unless, you know, it was after a drill team competition or after a soccer game. But just day-to-day life in the home, there wasn't a whole lot of compliments that were passed out. I think that oftentimes we're so busy picking out the negative, or so busy picking out what someone is doing wrong versus what they're doing right. And so I'm just gonna read you what I wrote this morning. And it says, compliments are important for children. They need them to feel good about their choices. When we always say what a child is doing wrong, never pointing out anything good, you only identify with the ridicule. You begin to look forward to criticisms or having the negative picked out of your work. You look forward to the that's good, but. Like, there always has to be a but, you could have, yada, yada, yada. Affirmations are like compliments to our inner child. They give us a boost and make us feel excited about what we are affirming and create a sense of confidence. Affirmations can give us the long-awaited approval and validation that we need to be truly confident in our artistic and creative choices. And that sort of just flowed out of me this morning, and I feel like what that means for me, you know, right now as we're recovering a sense of safety in week 1, we are going back to that artist child. Julia Cameron explains that we're nurturing a child. Everybody's an artist, everybody's creative, but creativity needs nurturing. And when you think of nurturing your creativity as bringing up a baby, bringing up a child that will develop into a full-blown artist, children need compliments. Children need to hear that they're doing good, or else they start learning everything negative, and then that becomes their censor. Those words become their censor. And so as a parent, I realize that I have control over what it is that I say to my children, and this totally makes me see things a little bit differently in the way that I speak to them when they're in trouble, or even just when they're getting on my nerves. You guys, I have 4 kids, and let's be honest here, I have 2 that are under 3 years old. So I deal with a lot all day. My days are very loud and hectic, and things are kind of all over the place, and that's okay. But I know that I have the control over the things that I say and the way that I say them to my children, to ensure that I'm complimenting them and validating the good things that they do, so that they are aware of just how wonderful they are. So when we turn around and we work with affirmations and we say things that affirm the goodness that we believe, when I can say that I am a brilliant, talented, and successful writer and mean it and feel confident in it, more things are bound to happen for me when I sit down to write. I am attracting to myself that success and more talent and more creativity, because I believe it so, and because I believe that it's there. But if every time I wrote something and somebody read it, they frowned their face at me, or if every time I sat down to journal or write, somebody was like, what are you doing? Why are you always doing that? That's stupid, or all of their negativity, then that stuff plays in our own minds. But basically, I had a really good morning. I had a good morning walk, and I really like how answering some of those questions after doing the morning pages really kind of just allowed for things to flow. And a lot of times that's how I write. When I write, I'm completely getting my information from the heavens. I mean, literally, I can go back and read something that I wrote and be like, wow, that just wasn't me. It wasn't me. It didn't come from me specifically. So if that makes any sense, and I guess if it doesn't, oh well. But yeah, so that was my realization today, and I am completed with day 4 basically. So I will see you guys back tomorrow for day 5 of the 84 days of the Artist Way.